Well, hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a very special X Vlog Live. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. Ladies and gentlemen, we have, again, breaking news. We have a three-man panel. More people are on the way. I got to make sure I sent the link as I do the intros. Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. The CMA has issued a statement that they are going to give the Activision Blizzard King acquisition a second look. I have statements from the I mean, I'll give you the exact what they call it. We call them the CMA for short, but it is the Competition and Markets Authority for the EU and the UK, and they have had a lot to say. We're going to break down everything that they had to say. I mean, it's. I'm going to be honest with you. We were talking in the green room, just looking at this. It does seem like they do not have a leg to stand on when you hear what they have to say regarding Sony. I said this privately. I will say it publicly. And again, remember, I'm just a podcaster, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have any real connections to anybody at Microsoft or the CMA or the FTC, but I can tell you my first gut reaction with this announcement. And this is going to sound, it potentially is going to sound childish, but hear me out. It sounds like Sony has this government in the EU in their pocket. And I say that with absolute respect, not saying that there's any kind of shenanigans going on, but if you just quickly read everything that they said about poor Sony, it does seem like they are standing in front of Sony. And maybe they're part of this the Earth Defense Force for Sony, because we know that government is huge. But look, I'm going to get to the intros. We're going to have a bunch of people popping in and out. I'm going to read verbatim from what the CMA had to say. And then, of course, I'm going to break down exactly what Phil Spencer had to say, because he had a statement ready to rock and roll. And it's long, it's lengthy, but it's worth a listen. And hopefully by then we have a bunch of people in here. I reached out to Hoglaw, who was live a little while ago. He had over 700 people in this chat. I was one of them. He had a lot of very interesting things to say. To sum it up, he does seem to like us, believe that there's a lot of weak sauce here with some of these statements from the CMA, especially when you talk about Sony. I mean, folks, I don't have a business degree. I don't have a law degree in business, but I can tell you that I have common sense. And when you look at what Sony has done in the last 18 to 24 months, they have run wild unchecked, literally unchecked. They have bought studio after studio after studio, the biggest one being Bungie, which went through as quick as could possibly be, because it was only, and I say only being facetious, $3.6 billion. They just this week announced that they increased their shares in From Software to nearly 15%. They also bought a publisher to help them in the mobile market. They have been completely running wild, right? We can also say, and I'm sure that Brad Smith, who of course works for Microsoft and is their head attorney, that everything that the CMA is concerned about, Microsoft weaponizing Call of Duty and WoW to their advantage, am I taking crazy pills? I mean, is Spider-Man on an Xbox? What about Final Fantasy 16? What about Final Fantasy 7? What about Final Fantasy 7 Part 2? I mean, what about I could keep going and going. How many marketing deals did they do to keep people on PlayStation? They've even gone as low as to have an exclusive mission in the upcoming Hogwarts. I mean, what are we back in 2007? What are we back to map packs? Like, this is, and again, like I said, I'm just a lowly podcaster here, folks. This is bonkers to suggest that Microsoft shouldn't be allowed to go from third place and challenge the King Sony. Like, it's bonkers. But listen, I've already gone on a rant, and there's more coming. Let's welcome in the guests. Risk it for the biscuit. I know that you are just as heated as I am. obviously you are the lead voice and one of the representatives for Xbox Infinite podcast on Friday evenings. How the heck are you, brother? And are you shocked from what you read so far?
Yeah, this whole week's shocking me quite a bit. I've been on a few rants this week. This is craziness. I can't believe it, man. This is not going to hurt anyone in gaming. It's not going to hurt the industry. It's going to do great things for the industry. And for the people who work at Activision Blizzard, all that aside, like, they don't want to hear this, man. They want this deal to go through as quickly as possible. But, Matt, thank you for having me on the show. I mean, look, immediately.
Yeah, listen, you bring up a great point, because here we go. The development community that currently works under Activision Blizzard specifically, I can't speak for King. I haven't heard the sexual misconducts. There's no Crosby rooms in King as far as I know, right? So I'm only going to speak on Blizzard and Activision, which we know is run by the devil in Bobby Kotick. He is literally the fucking embodiment of the devil, and he is going to be out. And all of those people that were living in fear are going to be under Microsoft, which has been rated as one of the best places to work in the entire planet. Not North America, not the EU, not the AU, the planet, folks. And they have already done everything that they can do to bring in unions, to make sure that the people that make the games have a voice, that they're not going to be shuttered or muted in any way. They've already said, more importantly than anything, Call of Duty is staying everywhere. One of the things that the CMA was concerned for. I mean, I don't know. Did any of your interns that might have wrote this shenanigans, did they do their homework to see that they've already said publicly out of the gate, Call of Duty everywhere? Because why wouldn't it be? But to suggest that, well, the Game Pass is going to be a better value than Sony's shit pass that it is right now, well, too bad, folks. Too bad. Maybe we should put the pressure on Sony to drop their games in their day and date and for a service that they're charging $3 more. Again, rant number 2, more are coming, because you're going to see a fired up boom. Listen, I'm normally very, very mild-mannered. I'm very reserved. I do not like disingenuous nonsense. And that is what's happening here. But OBM, representing not only himself, but the Xbox era, you, my friend, you slept in today. You said, I'm going to take the day off. I'm going to just chill. And you get bombarded with, I'm sure that I was going to say your beeper went off. Oh, my God, I'm so old.
You know what? I know exactly what you're talking about when you say beeper, though. And boom! Immediately, I started thinking about where's the Taco Bell payphone. You know, like, because that's
Christmas.
Boom! We're aging ourselves this morning. Yeah, man. I slept in thinking, we're gonna have some just kind of laid back conversations this morning, and then took the day off of work. Usually, I'm working at this time, so I wouldn't be on the podcast with you normally at this time, but man, I'm trying to get caught up. As you're ranting, I'm trying to read. And like, what the heck is going on today? So I was expecting some of the negative stuff with Halo. That stuff I knew was coming, but the stuff with the ABK stuff I wasn't expecting. So yeah, we're definitely some things to kind of dive into here and maybe kind of try to parse as like layman's, right? Would be great to see, to get some of Hoag's takes on this and see what his thoughts are. But, just my initial readings, I'm looking at this, the CMA, they're there to protect the consumers. They sound very similar to the FTC in terms of how they're set up and the way I'm reading their argument, though, I could see some a way you can make some long-term concerns, but the way they wrote it, it sounds like they're protecting the company, not the consumers. So that's going to be kind of that's the interesting part to me. And it, I was expecting somebody when this process started to kind of grandstand, but this doesn't seem like the right way to do it.
Yeah, but not a company to grandstand. Absolutely, right. I was expecting that. I was not expecting a government to grandstand for a company. That's absolutely exactly what you just said, though. Is like they are supposed to be there to protect the consumer, and this is written like they are concerned what's going to happen to Sony?
Yes,
what's going to
indeed.
happen to Sony?
Yeah,
Like,
poor Sony. Poor Sony. Yeah.
Yeah, it will. I mean, I've said this before. I think it's going to change once Call of Duty's on Game Pass. It will change the industry in ways, and we can get into that. But that's the thing that they should be concerned with, and they have to see the way they should be positioning it. In my opinion, at least what I understand is why is that going to hurt the consumer, right? And I don't see that because like at the end of the day, that's what businesses, leaders change over time. That's what we hope for. We hope for market disruption. That's how consumers get better products or get better values. Is somebody else comes in and builds a better mousetrap, for lack of better analogies. But like they come in and somebody has something better. Netflix comes in and they take over a market. We've seen that time and time again. And as long as where you should be, I guess, where I would expect them to be positioning themselves is like, hey, over the long term, this is why we think this is going to be higher prices for the customer, or this is why we think this is going to give them less options, or this is why it's bad for the employees of these, the 10,000 or 12,000 employees of the ABK. But they didn't really put that in there, at least not what I'm reading. And I'm just getting caught up again. So I'll kind of kick it back over to you and see if I can find anything else. But it doesn't look, this argument doesn't look very good on the surface.
No, it certainly does not. So, folks, listen, what I'm going to do is there's been a lot of posting, so I'm going to be going back and forth. I'm trying to get people in here. First of all, let's welcome in Fuzzy Belvedere. Fuzzy, thanks so much for joining us on another special edition breaking news in the world of gaming. Have you had a chance to digest what has been happening? Because there's a lot of information coming out here. I mean, I will say this, and this is probably going to come off as being a fanboy, but it's really not. From a business-minded person who's looking at this from a very RTS view, it doesn't seem like the CMA has a leg to stand on when they look like they are, I'm pardon the simplicity of it, capping for Sony and not being concerned for the people, which is what these entities are made for. They are there to make sure that the consumer is protected, whereas this does not read that way, to be honest with you.
I mean, unless you're completely ignoring what Sony has done over the past few years, it seems like all of the concerns that were brought up in Brazil, they were listening. Brazil may have been like, yeah, we hear you, and it's not really that much of a valid point. But man, the CMA must have been like taking notes and be like, oh yeah, okay, point one, yeah, that okay. So yeah, it definitely seems like they're protecting the company
Sony
over the consumer.
Yeah.
But, I looking through
let's ask this question: would the UK be getting a price increase if Microsoft was a better competition out there? They're not even competing that well.
And that's
right
that. I
today.
actually said that right before you came on. I said, it's funny. Look, folks.
Sorry about that.
Last night on Primetime Gaming, we had a great conversation regarding. And again, I did a thumbnail that it ruffled some feathers. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I'm actually most proud of the thumbnail because it's actually a thumbnail that's the truth, and it simply has Jim Ryan in front of SIE or PlayStation, and I have a comic bubble that says how to lose a generation. And what do I have on there? $70 games. Is that a lie? Not really, right? $10 upgrade fee for your games. If you buy it on PlayStation 4, no smart delivery. Seems a little anti-consumer to me, but okay. Sony, let them do what they want because Jim Ryan has people in the pocket. PlayStation Plus, $3 more, folks, than Xbox Game Pass. And Xbox Game Pass just announced the Friends and Family plan that takes you as the holder of the Game Pass service and says you can have 4 of your friends join you for $5 a month for a total of $25. 5 people for $25, and everyone gets a unique gaming experience. You're not sharing games. You're not sharing perks. You don't got to call Timmy and say, Timmy, listen, I'm going to be on from 12 to 2. What about you? Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good after 2. everyone's going to be doing their own thing. That's monsterly consumer friendly. Like, I don't even know how you argue that. Sony's service, packed with old games that good old Jimmy Boy said that they don't play, right? This is the tagline. Oh, the Sony folks, we don't play old games, right? Packed with old games, no first party day and date, right? Nothing, right? They raised the price of the PlayStation 5, not in one region, folks, in the entire planet except for America, which they did. They just didn't tell you they raised it, because right here, right now, you can only find a bundle for $550. So they can pad the numbers of Horizon Forbidden West and get that $50 extra, which we know they have been making a profit because they announced it during their financials November 3rd of last year. I'm sorry, not November, August 3rd of last year. They said in that statement that they announced that they're making profits on the console, and they just crossed 10 million of them. Well, since then to now, they have sold over 12 million PlayStation 5s at a profit. And apparently that's not enough. They want to make more profit. And of course, you can talk about, you can add anything to this list. I have no cross buy on PC. Hey, if you're a PlayStation player that you have dual, you have your rig, you got your PlayStation 5, you're living life. This is great. You're playing on the PlayStation. You get, man, this Spider-Man is great. I can't wait to try it on my PC. You get over here and you go to press play, and it says, give me $65 or give me $70. Your computer closes down, and somewhere a slot for your credit card comes out. You say, I didn't even know that existed. That's because Sony did that for you, right? I mean, listen, we can go on and on. You want to talk about blocking deals, paying developers a blocking fee not to put it on Game Pass. That's been confirmed, ladies and gentlemen. This is what I'm saying. Like, it seems to me that this is a one-sided affair, and Sony is allowed to run effing wild, and there's no one checks them. This is bonkers. So look, real quick, the simplistic definition of competition is the activity or condition of competing, the act or process of trying to get or win something others are also trying to win at, a contest in which all who take part strive for the same thing. That's competition. Well, let's read what the CMA had to say. And it's lengthy, so please, by all means, just bear with me. Let me just make sure no one's popped in here. Okay, so no one's here but us four. I'm going to read to you verbatim what the Competition and Markets Authority had to say regarding this deal. And this is their first tweet, ladies and gentlemen. We've been investigating Microsoft's anticipated $69 billion purchase of the ATVI_AB and have discovered that the deal could substantially lessen competition in gaming consoles, multi-game subscriptions, and cloud services. And you know how an intern wrote this? Because, folks, in a professional business like the Competition and Markets Authority, instead of using just the words, they used emojis. That's right. They used emojis. This is supposed to be representing all of the people in the EU and the UK. Wow. Okay, so let me continue. They go on to say Microsoft is one of the biggest players in the gaming industry. Together with Sony and Nintendo UK, they have led game console markets for the past 20 years, which limit competition from new rivals. But Sony is number one in the EU. They're number one in the digital marketplace in the EU. And somehow, no one said shit that they just raised it 50 pounds. Okay, let me continue. Activision Blizzard develops and publishes some of the world's best-selling and most recognizable gaming franchises, including Call of Duty and Warcraft. And again, they use the blocking emoji here. We're concerned that if the deal goes ahead, it could harm rivals, including recent and future entrants into the gaming industry, by refusing or hindering access to Activision Blizzard games. So, With that said, I'm going to stop because there's a lot more to get into, and I got to get to the panel because I don't want them to sit here and listen to me ramble. Risk it. What they just said is something that Sony has done and continues to do almost on a regular basis. If it's not missions, if it's not map packs, it's straight up IP characters like Spider-Man, who will never be on they have Marvel on lock, probably because of the sharing deal with the MCU, but Spider-Man, the face of Marvel, will never be on an Xbox. And we know that to be true because with the Avengers third-party game from Crystal Dynamics, they locked out Spider-Man. Now, it turned out to suck, so too bad for Sony that they spent the money, but Spider-Man, a third-party game in the Avengers, didn't find its way to the Xbox. Bonkers. What are your thoughts so far on the concerns of the CMA?
Well, I don't have any. With that Spider-Man thing, they didn't want to do that either. They came out straight out and said they didn't.
No. Crystal Dynamics didn't want to do that,
Yeah.
but who forced them to do that?
Sony.
There you
Sony.
go.
And this is the thing. It's not even that Sony's pulling in exclusive. Like if you're buying an IP and rights to an IP, well, that's one thing. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. They've been doing it for years.
Yep.
When they money hat stupid stuff like the recent Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah.
You're money hatting a level, a mission, a fetch quest. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it probably will pull fans in. I know it's pulled a couple of fans that I know of into the ecosystem, buying it in two places because their preferred platform is Xbox, but they bought it on the PS5 because they didn't want to miss out.
You see what you just said there? What did they do? They pulled people into the PlayStation ecosystem because they locked something behind a paywall known as the PlayStation 5.
Yeah,
That's hindering competition.
Yeah, they use FOMO all the time. But here's the thing that hinders competition the most that they just got caught out doing. Paying specifically to block Game Pass.
Yep.
That is anti-competitive. It's not illegal because I did a lot of research on it because I wanted to know.
It's certainly immoral, but not illegal.
It's not illegal, but it should be. It's anti-competitive, and that's what the FTC usually try to root out, and places like the CMA are trying to root out. They're trying to root out anti-competitiveness, but they're allowing this sort of stuff to go forward, and then trying to pull back here and say that Sony is the poor man. So, and again, I mean, the stuff that happened in the last week, Sony just raised the price of consoles in Australia by $50. That is not translating to $50 in Australia. That is translating to more like $150. Consoles are retailing for $1,005. That's nuts. And and then you go buy a copy of The Last of Us Part 1 for $129. You're paying $1,100 to enter the ecosystem. It's just absolute nuts. They are rinsing consumers and they don't care. And if they're allowed to continue, what's going to happen is going to be the opposite of competitive. But it's good that Microsoft's stepping in. It's good that Phil came out and said,
we're going to get to his statement because what he said was powerful there, Risket.
But I mean, like you say, One Bad Mother, when they bring COD into Game Pass, things are going to get really one-to-one. It's going to be very competitive. It's going to be, that's where you're going to have a competitive market. You got to remember as well that Sony's got, I believe it's 12 multiplayer games, live service games in the works.
Yes.
Now, they said in that last thing with Brazil that it's not possible for them to compete with COD. That is absolute tripe. I've never heard anything so ridiculous in my life. You've got Fortnite, you've got Apex, you've got Counter-Strike, you've got so many other IPs that compete directly with COD. You've got Battlefield. I know that's a bit of a joke at the moment, but there was a time. You've got lots of IPs that can compete with COD. All they need to do is actually compete. They need to compete with PlayStation Plus. They need to compete in the markets that they're losing in. And honestly, I really think that they're making a show of just thinking about it now. I think they're making a show of acting like they're trying to compete in a poor man way. It's like, oh, we're trying, but we just can't do it. Like, we can't.
I'm gonna read line 29, and I want you to respond to this, because if this doesn't scream, and let me give him a shout out. First of all, Kia Walker, who is a good friend of myself, is constantly and consistently dropping things into the DMs that I a lot of times I miss. And Kia Walker, this is for you, brother. He dropped this. This is line 29 of the CMA's response. And if anyone has any other information regarding it and you want to drop it into the DM so we could talk about it on the show, drop it into my DM. I'll take a look. Again, line 29. Listen to this. Pardon my French, folks. I don't like the curse. Bullshit. Okay? PlayStation currently has a larger share of the console gaming market than Xbox. But the CMA considers that Call of Duty is sufficiently more important than losing access to competitive terms could significantly impact Sony's revenues and users base. You see, I'm going to stop right there, because you're talking about Sony, the company, not the people.
Yeah, which is exactly what I said early on. That's the part that's still kind of getting me. And I would tell, like, you know, I would say that for people that are, you know, gamers that are like frustrated about this, I would also take a, you know, one thing I would say is like take a step back and realize that sometimes politicians will politic, and, you know, lobbyists will lobby, and yeah, you know, like at the end of the day, I'm looking at this and seeing, well, how is this going to really hold up if they have to go and argue this out in court? There is you know, the one thing to be aware of is worldwide there has been this big concern with big tech, and all these people that are putting in these political positions are put there, you know, like the expectation from people, even in both parties in both countries, was like, hey, like, we're putting you in positions so that, you know, the big tech can't own like everything. And so I think what happens is it's like, if people probably can relate to this at work. Sometimes you put a policy in place and then you try to prove that you maybe misapply it, or you try to apply it just to show that you're doing the thing that you were told to do. Right. And I don't, again, I'm looking at this, I don't see much of a case here, because this is really, I don't think what they're saying about it impacting Sony is necessarily wrong. The problem is they don't really sell why this is why this is going to be bad for the consumer long term, just like I said early on.
Yeah, let me just continue with what they had to say, because it's very interesting, and we certainly will get to you next, but check this out. This impact is likely to be felt especially at the launch of the next generation consoles, where gamers make fresh decisions about which console to buy. Again, are we picking sides here? Because you're worried about the bottom line of Sony losing customers because they're going to get a better deal over here. See, this is wait, but the craziness, folks, continues.
Well, the
CMA believes that this merger could therefore significantly weaken Microsoft's closest rival to determine of overall competition in console gaming. What?
And they
you mean to tell me that that Microsoft is going to be able to actually compete in the space and not let Sony run freaking wild? I mean, please talk me off a ledge here, Risk It.
But this is the thing. Even if it was as they are saying it is, which it could be, like at the moment, Sony's about 2-1 with Microsoft's console sales, so they got a long way to go before this becomes any kind of a competition, 1-to-1 competition. If we're talking about sales,
yes,
and then we got a long way to go before you reach that threshold of non-compete. Like, it's nuts to me. I honestly am reading through this before the show and during the show. It's like the stuff that I'm reading here, it just reads like a lawyer from Sony writing down, sending out a
It
ticket as
absolutely
to
does.
why we
It
shouldn't do this.
absolutely does.
I would
Yes.
think Sony could hire better lawyers. Like I don't even know that's like that's a bad. If Sony really wanted to make a case, they would go hard for the subscription market. Which again, I think there'd be some holes in that as well. Like at this point in time, but like they would be the thing for them to target if you really wanted, I think, to have something that's going to hold up in a court would be kind of focus on the new markets. Like that's really where the where they're trying to corner big tech is like on new markets. Like say, hey, this rising market, Microsoft's going to establish a monopoly where the gaming industry is going, but focusing on consoles, which is like a stagnant market, which hasn't increased its base in many years, and like where so.
They are but one bad mother. They're trying to lump. There's a thing I'm reading out before the show where they started to lump in, and I can't find the quote at this particular moment. Oh, here it is. Yeah, Microsoft's broader ecosystem. Microsoft already has a leading gaming console, Xbox, a leading cloud platform, Azure, a leading PC operating system, Windows OS, all of which could be important in its success in cloud gaming. So they are targeting the market that Microsoft are targeting.
And from a broad sense,
sense, and they have cornered that market, but that's with foresight, and there's no reason that PlayStation couldn't do this. It's not like Microsoft are blocking PlayStation from using the Azure servers. If they wanted to put the money into this, they could do this instead of putting the money into.
They would just have to pay for the use of it. But you know what? Here's the other thing, Riskit. They could, I mean, aren't they currently using Amazon's cloud service?
Oh, there's a deal. They do have an agreement. I don't know if they're using it. PlayStation.
See, because I know that they originally said they were going to use Azure services. That came down and actually came from Sony proper. It actually broadsided PlayStation proper. That was about 2 years ago. But aren't they? I thought they were. I mean, listen, you could use Google, you can use Amazon, you can use Azure. It's not like there are not other places to use if you want to expand cloud gaming, which they just bought. They're investing everywhere.
And that's the point, though, with PlayStation is they could compete if they wanted to. They're not trying to. Like, I really don't believe they're trying to. They set
because
up
they have an
PlayStation
old
Plus.
way of thinking, Riskit. They are
maybe it's
sell
not.
a console,
maybe
sell
it's
a hard
clever.
disk. Yes.
Maybe they want to stop this deal, and maybe they're holding back on putting day and date into PlayStation, PS Plus. Maybe they're holding back on doing day and date into PC. Maybe they're being clever about it so that they can get the FTC and these guys to start batting for Sony to stop this deal. I don't know. I don't know if they're that smart. It's always been that old way of thinking. Absolutely. They're very traditional. They always have been. They've had that traditional market, that traditional sales market. But you can see a slight shift, I think, with Jim Ryan. He is a businessman. And maybe they're pushing back a little bit and saying, well, maybe we just put the foot on the brake a little bit. We won't push too far here. And we'll wait for this Activision Blizzard deal to play out. And once that plays out, then maybe they'll put their foot on the gas and they'll start throwing stuff in the day-and-date PC like we know they're going to.
Right. And it was interesting. You're bringing up some other things, Riskit, earlier. Like in my head's like chasing like 5 squirrels at once. But, you mentioned like the competitive.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I want to say, I got to address that one. And I just like, man, I got to pick one, right? It's always got to pick one too here. Like you can't like go like, well, they got this, and that, but you mentioned the competition, you mentioned the gas games, we just, I know today's topic's not, about Halo, but we've seen how the Kings can get overthrown over time and how like new blood can come into the industry. Look at what Apex and Fortnite were nothings coming into last generation. They didn't even exist. And today they are, both of those just dwarf, outside of Call of Duty, those dwarf everything else that's out there. Yeah. And so there is an opportunity, and I've argued before, it's one of the reasons why I don't think Microsoft even wants to take Call of Duty off PlayStation. You don't want to create a vacuum that they can fill with one of these Gaz games that's going to be getting, some of the know-how from Bungie and things like that. So, there's opportunity to come in there and create a monster multiplayer. We've just seen it. We've just seen two giant examples, and then there's lesser examples like Rocket League and all these other like new IPs that come out of nowhere and they just catch fire. PUBG. That started a whole genre.
Fall Guys.
Right? Like
Fall Guys was made by two people. And it's a $1 million franchise.
So what this is really going to what the market disruption does is it does force people to get off their ass and try to diversify and compete in new areas.
Yep.
This reminds me a lot of, when gas companies don't want, they don't want electric vehicles out there, right? So let's figure out how we're going to lobby and slow that shit down because we're not ready to jump into that, invest and compete in that new territory. And I think that's kind of what Sony's doing. I mean, I think that's part of it is just the business end of it where they're trying to they know they're going to have to compete with cloud. They know eventually, if you look at where technology is going, 10 years from now, they're projecting we could be down to like a 1 millisecond latency, and you don't need it to get that low for something like gaming to streaming on TV to be good enough for Joe Schmo and little Jimmy and things like that.
Pretty good now, man.
I mean, it's good. It's workable in a lot of areas now, and our internet is still a mess. And they're still working through stuff. So it is going to be good enough. And the industry is changing, and I think this might just be a stall. I mean, I don't know. This could just be hey, we don't want this thing to lock in. This year we want to go buy something too, and keep them sort of hand tied for now. There's a lot of different I think with businesses sometimes what we see is we see the checkers of it, and there's chess. Again, on the surface, I don't really see it, but maybe it's just hey, as long as we can stall this till next year, it gives us a chance to go maybe negotiate with Square or without any, without them bidding in there, or it maybe gives them a chance to have the holidays without a Call of Duty, a backlog getting thrown into Game Pass and starting that snowball now. So there could be some of that.
Let me just stop you right there.
Yeah.
I got to welcome in. I'm sorry, brother, because I don't know how much time we have. Richard
there it is.
Brother.
Nice.
I didn't know if you were going to get
10
in here.
to 15.
No,
I can't wait to hear what you say.
Let's get into it. First of all, congratulations on your stream earlier. I was a part of it. Monster stream. Look, we've been going back and forth, Rich, and we're reading. I read verbatim exactly what the Competitions and Market Authority had to say. I even commented. I thought it was childish. They actually use emojis in this announcement.
In the tweets?
Who freaking does that?
The emoji was funny, right? Well, what does it even mean, right? Because it's like the no symbol, but it's before the sentence. It's
it's the block symbol. The block
I've
symbol.
Never used an emoji before, CMA.
I can't imagine, Rich, that a government-funded agency is going to have someone that's supposed to be taking this thing very seriously using emojis.
They're trying to be hip.
Ridiculous.
I
guess
like a 20-year-old or something. It's they got a
So, Rich, being that we got you for 10 or 15 minutes, let's let you get right into it and let you give the breakdown. Everyone was really taken aback by what the CMA had to say. I personally think, and I'm not an attorney, folks, that a lot of the stuff I read and Biscuit said it and OBM said it. It seemed like they were more concerned for Sony than what they're supposed to be for the people, for the consumer base.
Yeah, well, with the caveat, of course, and I put this on my stream as well. I'm an American lawyer. I'm not a UK lawyer, but their antitrust jurisprudence mirrors ours. And ostensibly, the Competition and Markets Authority is designed to protect competition. And I think the stuff that is in their press release, that is in their Twitter thread, that is in their actual summary of findings, that is the most concerning is exactly as you put it conceptually, that it's very difficult for antitrust regulators to distinguish between, man, that competitor is competing hard, and man, that competitor is illegally trying to monopolize the market. So the analogy I used when I was doing my stream was essentially, you've got a soccer pitch, right? Because we're talking about Europe, we're talking about the UK right now, and what we want to do is we want to have both teams be firing the football towards each other's goals, and when one scores, the other team is harmed. they're down. That's how competition is supposed to work. And what we're worried about is that one team takes out a billy club and knocks out the 3 forwards on the other team. We don't like that. That's not cool. That doesn't get us a good football match. Nobody's happy. There's riots in the stands. Nobody likes that, right? So that's what.
That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that.
And I think it's very aggressively positioned, but at least as described in their report, yes, there's a lot of stuff that's like, this could make the Xbox more attractive and lower Sony's market share. And I believe my commentary was, and I said this with respect to the Brazil comments, that's not supposed to be necessarily a bad thing. Right. That's supposed to be something that we're in favor of, that you say, oh, okay, you're taking market share from Sony. Maybe Sony has to figure out how to make their thing even cooler. And the PlayStation VR 2 is going to be cheaper and more badass because they got to get some of that market share back. We love this stuff. That's ostensibly what you're trying to protect.
Right.
The other thing I will say as a caveat from a legal perspective is, and I think you've heard me say this in this space, I thought every regulator on earth was going to go to whatever their equivalent to phase 2 was, because it's $70 billion. It's the biggest deal by a magnitude in video gaming history. It just makes sense. You have all the cover in the world to say, hey, this could do something. We should use our higher level review, whatever is in our statute. So none of this surprises me. People ask me this question all morning. I don't believe that there's a material change in the chances of the deal going through.
I saw that I was actually live on. I was in the chat when you actually said that live on the air. Yeah.
So I don't think it. So nobody needs to be like, no one needs to be jumping out of windows or anything on this. I think this mirrors what we've seen from the FTC, what's been leaked from them, from the EU, and otherwise. But for whatever reason, the UK just like to trumpet it this morning, like to put out the Twitter thread, like to put out the press release. They do the opposite of the FTC, right? People always ask me, well, when are we going to hear more from the FTC? Never. Like, if everything goes well, like all of that is handled separately, because when the FTC here in the United States asks for a second view, they're basically coming to the same kind of conclusion. There could be something here. And one of the real tricks in what the CMA did this morning is that that's all they ever reached. They have a legal burden, as best I can tell, of what we would consider something like probable cause. Something could happen here. We should send it to the experts, is all that was really decided this morning. And then they wrote a paper about it, and then they released that publicly. And that paper is bad. I mean, like, it's just bad.
Could you elaborate on that, Rich? Because that's really that's what. Look, obviously, we love what you bring to the community. You hitting 100K on YouTube is so well deserving. I cannot
love talking about this stuff.
No, I know you do. But how bad was this written? Because I'm not a lawyer, and I looked at this, and I honestly scratched my head a little bit.
I don't know that it's the highest priority at one of these regulatory bodies, because it's not the final decision. It's all that's being used to justify the elevation. I don't know that it's for anything. That's why it's kind of weird that it's publicized the way it is. That's, if I were to object to something that the UK did today, it'd be like making a super big deal out of this finding. This is very low level in terms of threshold. Something could happen. And then those kinds of things, justifying it internally to a phase 2 approach, it doesn't play super well as a legal document or even an advocacy argument. And I can go and I can obliterate it over 2 hours. Check out the video. But it's...
so why would they make it public
to do anything?
So why did they make it public? What do you think was the reasoning behind publicizing it, especially when it's this bad?
Usually when I put a regulatory agency in the spotlight and say that they're tweeting this out, they're publicizing it, it's political. They want credit. Hey, we are looking at these big bad tech companies, and this could be bad, and we've identified the reasons that this could be bad. Give us credit. We're working for you, right? If you look at that Twitter thread, if you look at their PR statement, if you look at their actual legal summary document, they all finish with essentially, and we're doing it for you, in respect of UK systems and UK companies, right? So like, it's all about, we are active. Please don't decrease our budgets. You should feel good about what we're doing to help you. Yeah. And I don't begrudge like institutional survival there. Like, that's how institutions work. But it is, I do vastly prefer the FTC's let's not get everybody involved in this until we actually decide we're going to sue your ass, right? Like when that happens, you get the full FTC show. You get the full on, potential DOJ comments. You get all the quotes. You get everything. And says now we're playing ball. But before that, the FTC, I think rightly, the DOJ, the way the United States government works, says, you know what, we're going to get more flies with honey. We're going to try to work out a consent decree or a settlement without blasting everybody on Twitter with emojis and whatnot. And so, I don't know that I've focused on the UK regulatory side of things as much as I did this morning. So I don't know that I've seen them do that before, but I'm sure that's kind of their usual policy, is to go and make a big show about whenever they're doing something. And so I think the important part is phase 2 is always very likely. The reasoning behind it is silly, as described in that document. I don't believe that reasoning controls any part of the phase 2. Okay. So there's some really stupid stuff protecting Sony in there. There's some stuff that I've always said, and I've said in this space, was the way I saw an aggressive antitrust policing going, which is primarily cloud and Game Pass, where you do have such early stage markets that Microsoft has clearly taken an early lead in, that if you want to try to name those as separate markets, you could squint and say that could be a market issue or a monopolization issue. And that's what they did in like the back half of their document. But the early stuff, the consolification, hey, this could harm Sony, all that stuff's ridiculous. And of course, one paragraph, since we got to see the Brazil answers, one paragraph is straight up Sony's answer about Call of Duty. And it's like, that was like when you find in an outlet that somebody sent a press release and it's like just the whole paragraph and it's just dropped in. And you say, wow, it's an investigative body. How could they just take one party's paragraph and just slide it in and say, oh yeah, Call of Duty can't have that on
and paste.
So,
well, Hogue, you've been kind of calling this for a while, though, right? Like you expected, like your previous videos, I think you said you expected these to go to this next phase all along.
I did. Like phase 2 always made sense. At $70 billion, it always made sense, right? You're not gonna. You have a number of these that you don't pull the trigger on at all, because it's like, oh, it's obviously not going to upturn markets. And so you go on and you do these various reviews. You just get up to big numbers. I mean, and this is a really, really big number for this industry. And you say, okay, it's a big number and Microsoft's on the title card, right? It doesn't matter that Microsoft isn't the big bad right now compared to some of the companies that folks hate. And we see Phil Spencer reference those companies specifically in his response. Phil Spencer, very, very spicy.
His wording was
morning.
Yeah, it's very on point.
It's really funny because it's very corporate, so you don't necessarily read it that way. But I do corporate messaging, and it's like, oh, okay. Phil Spencer's got the boxing gloves on this morning. That's it. That's interesting. And so, yeah, he talks about Sony and Tencent, which of course had the From Software investment yesterday. He talks about all these various things. He talks about Amazon, Apple, and Google with respect to this is the way we get around those app stores, you idiots, and that kind of thing. And it was enlightening. But no, I think at the end of the day, yes, I'd already built this into my percentages. I already anticipated the UK would go to phase 2. I'm surprised they weren't already. And so the big dog and pony show is like, okay. Well, since everybody freaked out and I got 600 DMs, I think we should talk about this.
Yeah.
But I don't think it materially changes much of anything. The only scary part is that definitely the logic in some portions of that document and the Twitter thread, to be honest, is, ooh, that's not how we should really be thinking about antitrust law unless you're going to change it, right? Parliament can change it. Congress can change it. As it stands right now, we're supposed to be focused on consumer welfare. And that's what you see Phil Spencer kind of try to move the ball into, is like, no, we're helping. We're making things cheaper. We're doing these various things. Unless you're going to accuse us of predatory things, which you could, around the bend in 5 years, potentially. We're not there yet. So we're making everything better. What are you talking about? And so, this is why I got people coming into my channel, saying I'm mean to Sony and things like this. Like, there's nothing here. Right. So we'll see where it goes. People a little bit too panicked today, but I don't blame them. I mean, that's a government body with official ambit of the sovereign of the United Kingdom going out there and saying we think there could be trouble. And even what they said in their Twitter was just a little bit too broad for what's in their press release, which is a little bit too broad for what's in their summary.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you talked about the decrees that these bodies can ask for. Right,
yeah, they're going to ask for what it's called,
and they're going to ask for. You have a strong suspicion that there's going to be something that they can hang their hat on. Look, we made them put Call of Duty it's going to stay everywhere. But
1000% that's gonna be a consent
Microsoft has already said that. They said, yeah, Call of Duty, and for just for this small-minded dollar and cents conversation, Microsoft would be leaving millions on the table if they took Call of Duty away from PlayStation or anywhere. So why would you take it away? I'm like, oh no, it's okay, it's fine. And let me ask your opinion. I know you got to get out of here.
Yeah, I got
was it cheeky that Phil Spencer said that, oh, these are going into Game Pass? Like I saw you mention.
I don't think it's cheeky. I mean, you'll note that he doesn't say day one. I thought that was a notable omission in that particular release. That's one thing that you would put in if you were certain about it right now. So I don't think they're certain on day one releases there, because they're negotiating consent decrees. I mean, I don't want to spoil alert for folks. By the time you go out to the public and say I'm willing to do X, Y, and Z, you are negotiating at that point in time.
Right.
And so there will be a consent decree because these parties are going to want one for politics or whatever reason. Maybe you just think this really is a significant problem. More power to you. Microsoft has already agreed to terms in public. And so it's very easy for the other side to sit and say, okay, well, if you're already okay with that, then let's write it down. Let's write down the specifics. How long does this last? What does feature parity look like between these, all these various things? How many resources do I have to spend? Because PlayStation versions of Call of Duty don't magically appear on the PlayStation tree. You have to pay somebody to bring over the ports and things like that. So there will be consent decrees. The only question is whether one of the big jurisdictions asks for more than Microsoft is willing to give, because that's when the fireworks start. Because I don't think their cases here on an antitrust stand are super strong. And so if Microsoft just decides they're getting pushed too much, they can call what they would think at that point is a bluff. They could say, you only have the right to ask for a consent decree if you can actually win this case, if you think that we're actually substantially lessening competition, if we're actually restraining trade, whatever kind of ambit you put it under. And you say you can do that, so we're willing to talk to you. If you push too far, we say, all right, we'll see you in court. And then that puts it back on the regulator to actually proceed with the court case, and then all hell breaks loose. The other aspect of this, of course, is that time is marching on. The stock market is way down. The percentage chance of the deal is somewhat reduced by a horrible stock market, because the internal value of Activision is probably lower than when they originally made their bid on it. And so that's the other aspect of this that could potentially change. You see that also with Elon Musk versus Twitter, by the way. I do think the deal is going to go through. I do think it's going to go through with consent decrees or undertakings in Britain. And I think they're probably all going to be acceptable to Microsoft. I don't think anybody's going to try to push too hard on this point. But I'm a human being and I've been wrong. And certainly the FTC, especially with their Facebook litigation, has been doing some wild stuff. So it's possible that there could be done more. So hopefully that was helpful. I'm sorry I only had
that was awesome.
You absolutely knocked it out of the park. But just one last thing you mentioned. They mentioned the Bethesda deal.
They sure did.
They mentioned the Bethesda deal. Like,
not only that, they mentioned it in the past tense. I love that the CMA says, well, Microsoft has already historically shown that they'll make these games exclusive. And I'm like, and then your examples are Starfield and the Elder Scrolls 6. All right, maybe I'm in a time portal, but I know what they've said. I know what they've said, and I think that Starfield will be exclusive, pretty sure, but I don't know that you can actually say that they did it already. We have to talk about tenses, CMA. Yeah. So no, I think that part is interesting. You see them reflecting on the Bethesda deal. I have said it's possible one of these regulators could ask for specific Bethesda-related concessions, because once you get to the place where I can block the deal, then you can ask for anything that kind of relates to the markets that you're talking about. So you can go back. You can go and say, okay, I think PlayStation Starfield should be made. But I don't think that's terribly likely historically, but we are in at least somewhat uncharted waters with the FTC and monopsony claims and other things that we've seen with the Facebook lawsuit. The Facebook within lawsuit. If you're interested in the Microsoft deal, the Facebook within lawsuit is really where you should be pointing your attention, because that thing is crazy. And if the Federal Trade Commission is that crazy on Microsoft, anything could happen.
No, it's true. I mean, listen, it's funny because we do expect, Rich, that at some point, whether it's this year, potentially next year, Sony's going to buy Square. Like we've all heard the rumors. They've shedded their skin. They're prettying themselves up, and it's safe to potentially assume. So where is the decree going to be where they say, well, all of these games that they have are now going to just stay on PlayStation. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, it seems like a lot of the things that Sony has been doing has been unchecked versus
well, I
Microsoft.
will say regulators do not have to be consistent, even over short periods of time. I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. And I think even with some of the arguments they made in this document, they're not consistent because, for instance, this comes out September 1st. How many days are we separated from Sony raising the prices in the UK on the Sony PlayStation 5?
A week.
Right? I mean, so you've got those. You've got them investing in From Software. You've got them buying Savage Games. You've got them recently closing on Bungie. So it's tricky. Certainly, Activision is bigger than all that. $70 billion. Activision is important. And I think one of the things that Phil Spencer said right in his commentary is like, look, we get it. We knew regulators would be interested in this. We don't have a problem with being looked at. Like, that all makes sense. But let's talk about what's actually happening here. And I think they've gotten Activision. Bobby Kotick's statement was very un-Activision-like in terms of, like, if we think about how they were messaging back during the California lawsuits. It's very much like, yes, it's very important that we be looked at. This is a serious time in the industry. Thank you. And it's like, okay, all right. So you've already taken on some Microsoft characteristics. That's interesting. But no, I think that the deal will go through. And I think that will Sony be asked to do the same kinds of things? I would doubt it, right? Because Final Fantasy 16 will be popular. It's not going to be within a shadow of closeness.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So it's like, it's difficult for them. I would rather see them take a more hands-off approach all around on some of this stuff. Let it come as it does. As I said in my video at length, it's been a very dynamic industry. Right? Like, consumers are very responsive to the quality and the price of the hardware and the software and everything else. I think more so than other industries. And the more dynamism you have there, you've got massive shifts from the PlayStation 2 era to the PlayStation 3 to the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 5 in terms of against Xbox and 360 and One and things like that. You have just people going to where they think the quality and the price is. That suggests a healthy market. And so if you're worried about losing that here, I don't think they've made their case. And instead, they've suggested that it's a static market and that the market share should always be locked into place. And I don't think that's accurate. So that's all the time I have. Boom. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Thank you so much, Rich. Definitely. Listen, brother, thank you so much for stopping by. We love your hot takes. I will take the video that you did about an hour ago. I will throw it into the show notes.
Oh, thanks.
So if you want, yeah, absolutely, dude. If you want to get over there and subscribe to Rich Hogue Law, you should definitely do that. He's incredible, and he had a 2-hour show today that was packed with information. It'll be in the show notes. If you missed it, all you got to do is click on there and check it out. Rich, thank you again, brother. Definitely appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good show.
All right, brother.
Later.
So, listen, One Bad Mother, we will come to you in a second. I do want to get Fuzzy's hot take on this. And then I want to read some of, if you guys don't mind, I want to read some of what Phil Spencer had to say, because what he had to say was interesting. But let me just say this. We are almost at 700 live viewers. That's the most for this particular show. Xbox Live is something new. This is only like the 20th episode. I actually at one point thought I was just gonna pack it up and just stay to the 3 shows. But of course, the community reached out and said, "No, Boom, we like this 4th show." If you're new to the channel, 2 weeks ago, live on the air, we hit 11K on Breakfast with Boom, and since then we have. And again, I only get about 150 subs per month, which is I mean, it's a lot for me, but when you see people like Colt Eastwood, who has over 100,000 people, it's minuscule. This week alone, I got over 100 new subs, and I see a lot of new faces here. If you're finding the channel for the first time and you're appreciating the banter and the professionalism that we do carry, and again, normally I don't curse, but today I just let a couple out there because I was fired the F up. Usually I subquote it because I don't like the curse, but if you're finding the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. Of course, hit the like button, folks. I'd love to see 500 likes. I don't know what it's at, but let's get to try and get 500 likes on this thing. Fuzzy, Rich, I mean, just blew it out of the water. We've already heard from Riskit. We heard from OBM. Everyone has been knocking it out of the park. I want to get your opinions on not only what Rich had to say, but more importantly, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought that this was incredibly unprofessional
Yeah.
of the CMA to not only use emojis in a press release on Twitter, which is preposterous, but more importantly, at every angle in those statements, especially what Rich was talking about, they seemed more inclined to defend Sony, the company, than the actual people that they are supposed to defend, which is us, the consumer.
Yeah, the thing that's wild about it is with the price increase, looming and the cost of the games being a bit higher on that platform, you would think that those things would be somehow focused on or something. But no, I almost feel like I guess the social media team of the CMA might be a little bit younger and probably a PlayStation only or PlayStation first video game player if they play games at all. But yeah, it comes across like they did a copy and paste from the Brazil stuff, and like I was saying earlier, they took notes and they basically wrote their paper based on those notes. I can't see how especially with the friends and family plan possibly coming here fairly soon, how they can consider that this would be anti-consumer. Now I can see how it may affect competition, but I can't see it being an imminent thing, especially when Sony is making the moves to kind of stay ahead of the storm with them acquiring Bungie, with them acquiring a mobile company, with them acquiring Nixus for PC ports and things. So
Yes.
They have all of the key things that will allow them to still be relevant no matter how much Game Pass grows or how much Xbox, grows the market share in that region. They're still going to be relevant. So it just comes across odd that these statements are the way they are. But I watched Rich's stream earlier as well.
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
like I said, folks,
awesome.
if you missed it and you don't know who Richard Hogue is, you probably should, because he has been on top of so much of the legal jargon that a lot of us goes over the top of our head because we're not legal analysts, right? We don't have degrees in business law. He breaks it down, not in a way that you feel insulted, but in a way that makes a lot of sense. He simplifies it, but also keeps it very current. Today's stream for Rich and of course Richard Hogue was phenomenal. I will have it in the show notes, and all you have to do is click it. But please continue.
No, but I think some of this is just the political theater in the UK, much like
sounds like grandstanding.
Here.
It does absolutely sound like it, yeah.
But I think when everything is said and done within these 5 days, I don't know if we'll see all the dirty laundry as far as the rebuttals from the Microsoft legal team, but I do think that they're going to continue to drive home that a lot of the stuff that they're requesting is already agreed upon. And if they need it in writing, I mean, they've put it in writing on social media. I'm pretty sure they'll put it on writing on legal documents. So.
And that's right. They do have 5 days to respond where they they can avoid the actual review if they provide all of the documentation and answers to what the questions the CMA may have. I forgot to actually mention that. Thank you for bringing that up.
But yeah, I think this. I agree with Rich. Like I'm a little less hopeful they'll be before the end of the year. I was kind of hoping this would be like September, October deal. It's looking more like maybe February when everybody gets back from holiday or something. But in any event, I can't see the CMA really going to the nth degree to try to block this and having a good legal leg to stand on. It feels like they're losing sight of what their mission is, which is to protect the consumer and not the companies themselves. But that's all I got.
You know what? Before I bring everyone back in, I do want to read some of the excerpts from the Microsoft blog that was written today by Phil Spencer, CEO of Microsoft Gaming. And this is what he says on his opening statement. Game developers around the world are creating innovative, groundbreaking games. We think that we can do more to bring those experiences to billions of players everywhere. Our announcement in January that we intend to acquire Activision Blizzard was an important milestone in our journey to do so. Since then, regulators, game developers, and players have been asking what the acquisition means for the industry and, most importantly, for the players. We love consoles. We recognize that they are not the only way people play games. Today, the largest and fastest growing segment of gaming is mobile platforms. To reach the billions of players where they are, no matter what device they play on, we need to embrace choice. Giving players choice in how they play their games make gaming more accessible and leads to larger, more vibrant communities of players. Choice is equally important to developers. Developers benefit from having a diversity of distribution and business models for their games. Choice unlocks opportunity and innovation and enables the industry to grow. Let's go back to Riskit on this. Riskit, this is a powerful opening 2 paragraphs, and what I love about it is in these 2 paragraphs, the consumer is referenced, i.e., all of us here, the near 700 people in this podcast today, right? The overall market, the gaming as a whole, but more importantly, developers, because they have a say too, right? You don't want, like, we saw an article come out today about how not an article, a rant from you about how Sony is bullying people into doing what they want. You actually had a rant video that I retweeted, which I hope that that you're going to talk about. What are your thoughts on this opening salvo?
Yeah, well, look, they've been talking about this for ages, and this is why I find it really odd that the FTCs and the Brazil, they're even asking these questions, because if the information's out there, they are definitely for gamers. We know that already. We can see that through subscription services, through Game Pass, but it grows their business. And I think what they understand and what they've learned, and what they learned from the Xbox One generation, is that they need to look after their consumer base.
Right.
They need to give their consumer base what they want, which is, we want games. Obviously, we're a little bit light on those at the moment, but we're getting games into Game Pass. We're getting big AAA first party stuff, but we're getting games into Game Pass. We're getting them for the best deal in gaming, right? And they're giving, through that, what they've done with Sarah Bond. I don't know if you've heard Sarah Bond talk about all she does for developers, but they're giving them options. And what I love about Microsoft, and when they talk about this sort of stuff, is they don't come up with ideas and go to the developer and go, "Hey, this is what you're going to do. This is the ecosystem you're going to come into." They're very, I hate to use the word, but they're very organic. And they go to developers and they go, "Hey, we have this idea about how you guys could enter our ecosystem, and these are the kind of the options that we're thinking about. What's your feedback?" And if you listen to Sarah Bond, a lot of Sarah Bond stuff, they have conversations with developers about what works for them on a whole. They gather all the information together, and they do what works for them as a business, for the developers, and for the consumers. Sony is clearly not doing this.
Yep.
Which is just, when you get stuff that comes out like this, which is absolutely astounding, and I can completely understand why Hogue is saying that, hey, this is probably a bit of a non-issue. Hey, this is probably grandstanding, because this has all been all this stuff that Phil said. Not all of it actually, but a lot of it he has said, but is said before, is known. And so I think this whole statement is a way of Phil saying, listen, we've said this. Here's us doubling down on it.
Right.
If you want to, and like Hogue said, if you want to put it in writing, here it is. We've said we're doing it. We've said it before, but let me be very clear about our intentions. And so, if they want to put it in writing, like Hogue said, that's probably what they're likely to do.
Right.
But yeah, my rant is just about the fact that no one calls this stuff out. Like, no one calls the stuff out that Sony's doing. So that's a very separate thing to what we're talking about now. But they're chalk and cheese. And so I just don't see how, they don't see what's going on. It seems to me like the FTC, the Brazilian, I think it was Cade,
yes,
and these guys, that they're not really looking at the industry. They're looking at it in segmented business. I don't know how they're looking. I don't know how you could look at this and not see how good Microsoft has been this generation and the back end of last generation for consumers. It just creates competition. It's a great thing, and it's great for developers, great for gamers, great for the bloody industry. And I say pen the deal and get it through, because I want COD in Game Pass now.
You know what? To your point, though, Riskit, it's shocking to me that they're looking at Microsoft with a fine-tooth comb, but at the same time, Sony is raking over their players. I'm one of them, right? Like, I mean, did we forget that they hid the PlayStation 5 upgrade for Horizon Forbidden West off of the console? I had to find it. I had to find it through the app.
Yeah,
to download the free version that they originally said they were going to give us, then released a blog post saying that you weren't going to get it, that had to retract that statement and say that, okay, this time only, but everything else, tough titty. Like, come on, man. Like,
so many times today on Twitter, I got that people would say they're angry at me for pointing things out. And they're like, oh, you just, and so many times, I can't even count how many times I got called a broke ass gamer, right?
Oh, yeah, I love it.
I'm like,
I love
dude.
I've heard the welfare pass.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, I own a PS5. I am in the ecosystem. The reason that I'm upset about this is because I'm in the ecosystem and I don't want to pay $70 for games. I don't want a $10 upgrade. I don't want to have to go hook up my PS4 to transfer my cloud saves. I want the cloud saves to be there so that when I pull them from I don't want to do all this stuff that's just a pain in the butt and all this stuff that costs me more money. I don't want to do it. And Microsoft gives me the ecosystem that's just easy. And I hate to say it, I sound like an ad for the damn thing, but everything just works. And
everything just works.
Yeah, it doesn't work on the PlayStation, and they charge you more for it. It's like, hey, you guys, I honestly, and you said it earlier in the thing, and it is one of those really controversial things to say, but this feels like PlayStation's death knells. The things that they're doing now are really going to hurt them going forward, and it also really feels like the Xbox One era. Like, I really do think that Jim Ryan is comparable to Don Matrix. Like,
100%, dude, 150%.
Yeah, it's nuts how this. And then you got these FTC guys. Like, are you guys not seeing what's happening? They just raise the prices everywhere. Like,
this really does equate to the arrogant PlayStation 3 era of Sony.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. Listen, I'm gonna allow OBM to go ham on this topic, and you know what, take as much time as you want with no interruptions, because I know you have a lot to say. You're a very brilliant man and we want to hear from you, but I have to catch up on the super chats. My God, there's been so many of them. I cannot thank you for the generosity. And again, folks, we turn this around, we put money into the channel, but more importantly, we give it back to you for the remainder of 2022. And I will do this again at the end of the show when we're doing outros. Mrs. BoomStick and I will be giving away in 3 contests. If you're new to the channel, check it out. September, November, and December, we're giving away in 3 contests $2,000 worth of digital games. Games, gift cards, you name it. And here's the other thing. And this, I think, is, for me, it's the most important thing where both my wife and I hang our hat on. International viewership will be allotted a part of the competition. If you are in Africa and you win, I will get you your money. If you are in the UK and you win, we will get you your prize. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. We will not only get you your prize, but we will pay for the exchange rates if necessary, and any additional fees that a money service would charge for us to get you the money. We cover it all. And all you have to do to win is be in the chat when these contests are going live. That's it. You get extra entries for super chats, for channel membership, and for being subscribing to the channel. Those are the 3 bonuses. But for the most part, even if you're not a part of any of that, you could still win a prize. It's $2,000 for the remainder of 2022. And it's our way of saying thank you for the support. And that's how we dole out the super chats. And let me get to them. The first one comes from Tom from Toonami. Drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, could result in Microsoft harming consumers by impairing Sony's Microsoft's closest gaming rival ability to compete. LOL. Okay, CMA, how? Yeah, I mean, that's a great point there, Tom. Gamer by Choice drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, Hogue Law just broke it down. Very interesting. Yeah, he was amazing, not only on his own show, but here today. Jacob Novick, who's dropped quite a few super chats, actually 3 in a row. The first one of $20 says Microsoft was buying in the 90s and became a monopoly in PC. So Microsoft was about to get sued and split up the former president, split up by former President W.J. Bush firm. But the judge was also biased to Microsoft, also got away. But if UK blocked it and Microsoft sues, yeah, Microsoft won't lose this time. Yeah, they certainly would not. He also drops an additional $5 super chat 2 times in a row. He says, by the way, Boom, did you see that Alex and Steve Minecraft amiibos will release in 8 days? Yes, I did, and I have them pre-ordered from Target for both myself, because I have every amiibo ever released, and my nephew, who is a huge fan as well. So thank you for that. And his second $5 super chat says, Sony said to Brazil that gamers can lose quality if they are in Xbox Game Pass, a subscription service. So Sony says that their new service can do the same. Yeah, they're just ridiculous. Infinite AA drops a $2 super chat and says, I really hope that this goes through. Yes, you and me both, and everyone in here agrees. Eternal Shaddai drops, wow, dude, an additional $20 super chat. Man, you've been unbelievably generous. Thank you so much for that. He says, good afternoon. Good afternoon and panel. Sony is using their market leadership to their max. CMA says on Twitter that they could harm rivals and any entrants into gaming other than raising prices and games and consoles. What about Tencent? I mean, you can even say Embracer. Embracer just locked up the deal with Crystal Dynamics. They have 120 studios, folks. 120 studios. And I understand they're not in America, but I mean, come on. I mean, that 120 studios to Microsoft's proposed 34 after this is all said and done. Come on. It's ridiculous. Jacob Novick drops an additional $2 super chat and says, at the end of the day, Microsoft will win and UK will lose. Yeah, I think they know that. That was so unprofessional what we saw today. Whoever wrote that is probably fired. I just want you to know, because that was just embarrassing. JetFan95 drops a $2 super chat and says, Are we sure Jason Schreier doesn't work for the CMA now? You know what? That's a great question. Raiden Blade drops a £2 super chat and says, hey, Rich, are you stalking me? Hi, Boom and panel. Yeah, I actually asked him to come in here, Raiden Blade. J-Rock, what's going on, my brother? He drops a $2 super chat and says, just passing by to show my guys some love. Well, thank you, brother. And you are a shining light in the community. Follow J-Rock on Twitter. The guy is funny AF. And he does give it to the Sony folks. Sometimes it's a little more than I would do, but you know what? You gotta give him credit where credit is due. J-Rock, thank you. Raiden Blade drops an additional £2 super chat and says, first thing I would do is have Call of Duty released every 3 years. Yeah, I think they're gonna wind up getting to that. And Gameonomics, let me just see what that is, because I don't know what that denomination is. Hold on just a second. Let me just see if I can catch up. I'll get to you in a hot second, Gameonomics. Thank you. This chat is I'm sorry that I have not actually. I usually love saying hello to everybody individually, typing your name, but today is just so crazy. There's so many people, and the chat was flying by. So thank you to everyone that is here. Let me just find it. Okay, Gameonomics drops an additional $5 super chat and says, yeah, 343 Industries has confirmed the cancellation of the game's local split-screen co-op mode. I hope they don't cancel co-op in general. Co-op is coming, but I don't want to get into it. I'm going to tell you this right now, and I say this with a heavy heart, folks. I'm a diehard Halo fan. I have finished both battle passes. I have spent a redonkulous amount of time in Halo Infinite. And today's announcement was nothing short of a slap to everyone's face that is a Halo fan. I don't know where you could find any solace whatsoever in that announcement today. I'm gonna say this, and I don't think Microsoft would even be mad because I think they understand that we're passionate fans. I don't know what in God's name is happening at that studio, but my God, it continues to spiral out of control. I will leave it at that. I think we're going to get to it tomorrow on Breakfast with Boom. I'll make a segment. I think we're going to be talking about this as well because, I'm sure more stuff is going to come out. But OBM, let's get your opinion on this. Obviously, you heard what Hogue had to say. I'm going to read you one more excerpt, which I thought was very, very interesting from Phil Spencer. And he says this: "We are expanding choice in two ways. Through the creation of Game Pass, which gives players a subscription option, and by bringing more games to mobile platforms, including through our cloud game streaming technology. Subscription services like Game Pass are making gaming more affordable and help players from all over the world find their next favorite game. Game Pass empowers developers to bring more games to more players, not fewer, i.e., FU Sony. We intend to make Activision Blizzard's much-loved library of games, including Overwatch, Diablo, and Call of Duty, available in Game Pass, and grow those gaming communities. By delivering even more value to players, we hope to continue growing Game Pass, extending its appeal to mobile phones and any connected devices, unlike what Sony has done, right? They have closed their barriers. They have closed off consumers because if you don't buy their wares to play a game like Spider-Man or Final Fantasy VII, you're not playing those games. We've seen them money hat other titles. And then, like I said, if it's not a mission, if it's not a weapons pack, if it's not a strike, you never get those, but they are allowed to pretty much, again, run around unchecked. What are your thoughts of what Phil Spencer has positioned Xbox Game Pass, and what are your thoughts about what Rich had to say?
Yeah, I mean, well, geez, okay, 10 squirrels. We're up to 10 squirrels now. First thing, just kind of stepping back to what Rich had to say. I think I'm so happy that we had him on. He did kind of solidify some of my theories, in terms of what was happening. I have listened to a lot of Rich's content before, and I think that the reason even Microsoft has expected this to go into 2023 is they know this is the size of this thing, the kind of temperature around the world, that regulators, to do their job, are going to take this to the next level of scrutiny. That's just probably, and I think that this is just them showing, hey, we're doing our jobs. The fact that they have such a poorly written argument today, though, that came out to the public, shows maybe that they don't have a lot to go off of as they go into that next phase. So I think that's why he says, nothing's really changed in his mind outside of somebody, going public with this, and I guess grandstanding, right? But something else he said, and I think this kind of ties into what Phil Spencer's talking about, is like competition in the industry. And what Phil's really talking about in that statement is something that I've been really kind of alluding to for a while. The industry is changing. I find that our communities, the gaming communities that are enthusiastic about Xbox or PlayStation, still talk a lot about the consoles and the console wars, the exclusives, or the exclusive missions, or whatever that's coming. For the most part, I feel like from a business standpoint, the console wars are almost over, or probably in Microsoft's mind are over. Like, they are positioning themselves now for that sort of next paradigm shift in gaming, which not ironically is going to actually drive their console sales. Like, basically what we have seen over the years is that the gaming consumer in general will respond to things that are easy to access. The more you take down the barriers for them, the more they are going to engage in your ecosystem or buy your thing. We saw that with Nintendo going from the Wii to the Switch, right? We saw that with mobile gaming. We see that now with the core gamer on consoles. They're going towards free to play, right? They have been. been the last generation. Like that's taken over big time. And generally the consumer doesn't like to take risks, and that's why they buy that's why they buy Call of Duty every year and Grand Theft Auto every year, and they buy the big Sony game, the stuff that they know. They keep rebuying it. It's been really hard for new companies to penetrate into that market. It's been in terms of outside of free to play. I guess I should preface that, because we did talk about new companies jumping in on free to play. And when you kind of look at the near future, where I think what Microsoft is trying to do right now is kind of mesh all these things together, where they're bringing that core gaming experience, the $60, $70 game, into the subscription, lowering the barriers for people. It is going to change habits of consumers. I know that the guy from Take-Two kind of came out and says, well, gamers only like to play 2 games every year. Yeah, they do, because they don't want to take risks, right? They're not going to spend thousands of dollars to try out all these $60 games that they might not like. But when you start to see that take hold, and you start to see what Call of Duty could do to bring that into the mainstream, it is going to change consumer behaviors. It is going to probably change their expectations. And for people who like to fight against that, because, hey, this is what they're doing now. We've already seen consumers change behaviors drastically over the last 20 years. Like when I got in on the original Xbox, and, back when the PlayStation 2 and GameCube was out, all we did was buy, we bought our $50 games back then, and, waited for the next thing. And then it went to multiplayer became a big thing, and people stayed on less games, and then now it's free to play. So, we've seen stuff change. And so I right now what they're driving towards is that next shift, which the problem that the regulators are going to have in arguing, I think, against this, like Microsoft is positioning themselves to be the leader, probably by far, when things kind of flip over. And the problem you're going to have with as a regular, like arguing against it right now, though, is that, when we look at examples like TV streaming, we've seen Netflix took a big lead, but we saw Disney jump in. We see Paramount trying to get in there, right? Like when you start lowering those barriers, what you're going to do is you're going to open up new companies to come in as platforms. And so, yeah, yes, it does threaten Sony, but even Embracer, you mentioned Embracer, like we have no idea what their end game is. They could, with all these studios and games, I mean, it sounds like they could support their own subscription in 5 years, right? Like maybe that's what they're positioning for, is that industry change, and like just kind of getting that pipeline going and being ready for it. We don't know. Amazon, if they would have bought EA, which was, the rumor a few days ago, all of a sudden they're now somebody who could compete with Microsoft in a subscription/streaming world. And I think that the more you kind of reduce these barriers, the more opportunity you open up for competition. And it also is, it's not only opening up for competition, it's opening it up for the people that make games. We talked, Boom, before on other shows about developers. Like you don't even have to have a studio now, and it's going to get better for them. Like you can have 10 people from different parts of the world get access to Unreal for free, and pretty soon they'll be able to develop on high-powered PCs in the cloud, even do QA for their games in the cloud, and access more tools, and then Microsoft's building their own stack. So like there's going to be all these opportunities for people to make stuff that never could have made them in the old paradigm, all this opportunity for you to reach the consumer that was never there. And so there's a lot of opportunity for everybody. And so it's going to be really difficult to argue, we still think that, Microsoft's going to get this dominant position, because it's still there, and it's still there for Sony, and honestly, sometimes that's why, I get a little bit frustrated, because I want to see them punch, hard at Microsoft, and, maybe getting Bungie is the start of it. Maybe Destiny eventually is a big leader for them in a subscription space. But you want to see competition. I don't trust any publicly traded corporation to do the right thing forever without being held honest through competition. That's just the way it is. They're there to answer to investors. Phil's not going to be there forever. Even if Phil and Satya have all best intentions. Corporations, they're going to change people over time, and they're only going to be held honest by competition. So that is going to be there. I think Sony has. They have more resources to compete than people are acting like. I mean, right now they should be taking their mind share this momentum that they built up after last generation, and they should be pushing that forward into, parlaying that into the future more than I think, cashing in on profits now. I think, maybe taking some of that, investing it towards the future is what I would hope. But, just in general, I think after hearing Hogue and, kind of reading like through everything as the show's gone on, it doesn't look like there's a lot of concern about whether, in my mind, whether ABK will go through. I think the last thing I'll say, because I know I'm talking a long time, but talking about Call of Duty, and I know that there was some debate earlier about Microsoft not really being aggressive enough and making this console exclusive. Again, that doesn't matter. Call of Duty as a Game Pass exclusive is the exclusive that matters.
I've been saying that for years. The actual true exclusive is Xbox Game Pass, which here's something else that no one mentioned so far, and I want to reiterate because I think I might have did it in one of my rants, and maybe because I was so heated. Microsoft wants Xbox Game Pass on Sony's machine.
Yeah. Yep.
Sony does not want it there.
Right.
So if they're saying no to all of these games that I have access to, like all the ABK and all this other stuff that they're going to have in there, and Bethesda, Sony doesn't want it in there because it's better than their service. Mm-hmm. Well, you know what, Sony? Be better.
Well, and that's the thing. It's gonna eventually, like, this is creating market disruption, and you're going to see that when Call of Duty is on Game Pass. And again, I know I argue with people, and not everybody agrees with me in both communities, but I think when Call of Duty is on Game Pass is going to be the reason people buy Xbox consoles. It's going to be the reason why they go to them on the PC despite their store, which is awful. Yeah. Despite that, so that's going to be the reason why, and eventually, why people will start to try streaming on TV, because it really reduces that risk. And people know what Call of Duty is. The soccer mom knows what it is.
Yes, they do. Yep.
And the kids in the school, right? Like if you think about us being back in high school, Boom, and stuff like that, a long time ago, right? Like you remember we you talk about there are certain big things that in gaming we talk about the Mortal Kombat, who got the blood, right?
Right. Did you buy it for Genesis, or did you buy it for the Super Nintendo? They got the green blood. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. I remember.
Now, Call of Duty is the thing that's going to make Game Pass that discussion, right? It's going to make it like that thing that everybody knows about, and it becomes the Kleenex of gaming subscriptions. And so I do think that is going to change things, and Sony will in time will probably need to find new ways to compete. And I think they're expecting it. They just don't want it to happen fast, because again, they are the kings of an old model, which is stagnant and eventually is going to become more niche. And it doesn't mean consoles are going to go away, but that's not how you're going to win the industry.
Yeah,
I mean, that's why we see them buying time, don't we? We see them blocking game last game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly what they're doing is buying that time.
Yep, that's it.
Well, I mean, listen. Let me read the last two excerpts, and I'll get fuzzy, and then we'll get everyone out of here, because normally this is like a 70-minute show, and we're already 94 minutes into it, and of course, risk it. I don't know what time it is. It's got to be late where you are, dude.
Yeah, like 1:30.
Oh, Jesus Christmas! All right. Well, listen. If you got to go, brother, I don't want to hold you up anymore. You want to sell your brand and get on out of here, because I did want to talk for another 10 or 15 minutes. You want to hang on? Okay, good. Okay, excellent. So this is how he closes out this letter by two regulators, whoever's going to read it, from Microsoft, and this of course was written by Phil Spencer. Fuzzy, he says this: in doing so, we will pursue a principled path. We've heard that this deal might take franchises like Call of Duty away from places where people currently play them. That's why we have said before, we are committed to making the same version of Call of Duty available on PlayStation on the same day the game launches elsewhere. We will continue to enable people to play with each other, across platforms and across devices. We know players benefit from this approach because we've done it with Minecraft, which continues to be available on multiple platforms and has expanded to even more since Mojang joined Microsoft. Mojang has joined Microsoft in 2014. As we extend our gaming storefront across new devices and platforms, we will make sure that they do so in a manner that protects the ability of developers to choose how to distribute their games. We will continue to engage with regulators with the spirit of transparency and openness as they view this acquisition. We respect and welcome the hard questions that are going to be asked. The gaming industry today is robust and dynamic. Industry leaders, including Tencent and Sony, continue to expand their deep and extensive libraries of games, as well as other entertainment brands and franchises, which are enjoyed by players everywhere. We believe that a thorough review will show that the combination of Microsoft and Activision Blizzard will benefit the industry and its players. And finally, for all of the players and game developers out there, you remain at the center of everything that we do. We will continue to listen to your feedback and do everything we can to nurture this industry that we all love. End quote. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but I love the fact that they mentioned Sony and Tencent, who are continuing to invest not only in their own companies, but others too, obviously, at some point. I mean, some people were saying yesterday when they heard that Sony was going to have almost 15% of From Software, that you would never get another From Software on an Xbox. I mean, there's rumors for that, right? We can't suggest that is a possibility, right? So, again, I don't think that the CMA has a leg to stand on. Close us out, Fuzzy. What are your thoughts on what Phil had to say and what Hogue had to say?
Well, I think as far as with Phil, he basically reiterated what they had been saying all along, and wanted to point out some of the key points.
Holy matrimony. We got the lawyer himself. Gaz, we're going to get you there in a second, brother. Wait, you're muted. You're muted. All right, so we'll get to you in a second, Gaz. Continue, Fuzzy.
No, but basically, Phil wanted to reiterate some of the stuff that they had discussed earlier on, and drive it home that they're not impeding on what Sony can do, nor are they impeding on what their player base is able to access. They're trying their best to explain to the CMA that, hey, look, we want this everywhere. We're not looking to, hold this off in a corner. And I like how he stayed above fray and didn't, point out or call out that, Sony's been doing, the keep away for, decades now, but just basically pointing out that they want this game to continue on, much like Minecraft. And it's like, hey, if you want to have an idea of how we're going to work and what we've been doing for the past, 10 years or so, give or take, look at Minecraft. So it's to put them at ease as far as their overall stance on this. But yeah, and Hogue knocked it out of the park as far as with his analytics on this. And I just, my hope is a little weakened on the end of the year deal, but February or sometime early next year is fine. But yeah,
how is your overall feeling on the deal itself? You still think it's going to go through, very much like Risk It, very much like myself, One Mother, and even Hogue for that matter.
Yeah, because even if I think this goes through, even if they have to go to court. I don't foresee it getting that far, but I think this still goes through. It's almost like a dog and pony show. Let's just say, as far as
I like what you did there, sir. No, good stuff, Fuzzy. Always great stuff. Gaz, welcome to the program, brother. You're still muted. You're still fired up. Let's get some sauce in on the new episode of X Vlog Live. We got to get you unmuted, and we got to get some curse words that are buzzed. There you go.
I thought you muted me this whole time, and I was just raging. I
absolutely did not, sir. I would never mute the source.
343, you.
Oh yeah, we're not going to go there. They deserve the curses because they should.
You're going there. We're going there. Boom! I don't give a shit. Oh, sorry, this is a family show. I don't give a shit.
Okay. It's
if
all
it's your show. I don't care. Can I get off my chest?
Please, you know what? Go crazy about 343 because one bad mother and myself.
3 months. You gotta wait 3 months. 3 months became 6 months. Became 9 months. Became.
What happened, ladies and gentlemen? We're going to get him back momentarily.
Don't worry, he just had a stroke. That's okay.
He literally was in the chat, and then I sent out the invite. He answers. He actually says, and I quote, let me go to the private chat here. And he's talking to me, of course. He says, folks, let me in, you slut. That's so gas. That's so gas. I mean, it's just so look. At the end of the day, folks, I know that initially there was a lot of it seemed like a lot of confusion as to what exactly this regulate they called the MCAs, right? Right? Is that what it is? I think it is. Yeah. No, the CMAs. I'm sorry, I had it backwards. What the CMA had to say. Again, I said this earlier. There were some people in the chat that says, well, you know, they're allowed to use emojis because it's it. Listen, if you're a professional entity, you don't use freaking emojis in a statement to the world about how you're overseeing a $70 billion deal. I'm sorry. I mean, who did that? A 20-year-old? So someone be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be hip about this and put emojis. That's dumb. That's just dumb. I'm sorry. And like I said in the opening, I'm not a lawyer, but it does appear that the CMA does not have a leg to stand on, especially if, and I think what Hogue said was interesting, putting this out, and you actually said, you had asked him, why go public with this, risk it? You actually said that. I think this is a detriment to their case because all Microsoft, Microsoft is pulling receipts. And like, this doesn't sound like they're concerned about the people's. They're concerned about Sony. So they're in somebody's pocket. I mean, I'm sorry to say, not to be simplistic about it, but they're in somebody's pocket when you're worried about Sony's going from number 1 to potentially number 2 instead of actually competition. And they said it in that thing I read, Article 29 of that. They're concerned right now Sony's number 1, but they're concerned that they might be number 2. I thought that was what competition was all about. I didn't know that we were going to one-side this thing. Look, at the end of the day, we had nearly 700 people here. That is bananas. I can't thank you enough for tuning in for what is normally a one-on-one show where we have 2 topics, 70 minutes, we're in and out. We talk about whatever you want to talk about. Today it just happened to be world-breaking news. I cannot thank enough Risk It for the biscuit. OBM, and of course Fuzzy Belvedere for being here. Gaz for the 30 seconds that he came in here and he cursed and had a stroke. That was awesome. We actually got a chance to see his foot. I don't understand what happened there. It means he's wearing sandals, but that's not surprising. And of course, we got to thank Hogue Law for jumping in for 15 minutes, which I'm very happy because he did get a chance to break it down. And like I explained to you, he doesn't say it in a way that you feel insulted, like, oh, I'm just a dummy. He does break it down in layman's terms that we understand, but there is still force behind what he's saying. Let's get to the outros because I don't know if we're going to get gas. He might actually need emergency service, so I'm going to reach out to whatever their 119 is over in that country and get him over to his place. Risk it. You got to sell your brand. Tomorrow, I would imagine that your show, the Xbox Infinite podcast, which I believe is 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, it is going to be a fire show. There, you have yourself, you have Infinite Umber, you have Jedi Peter, as well as Doom Cutie. You guys have an amazing panel. It is it's great to listen to. Sell your brand. Tell everyone where they can subscribe to get you guys past 1,000 subscribers. It's the goal. I'm going to put your podcast on my back, and we're going to get you past there, brother. Sell it.
Absolutely. Yeah. As he said, 8 p.m. EST Fridays. We have a great show. We have a great time. And this week, we are going to have an amazing show.
You're going to have a 4-hour show, by the way.
Yeah, I know, right? We're trying to keep it under 2.5 hours, but it always blows out to about 3. We're trying to keep it under. We've got a good guest this week. We had a great guest last week in Broken Games HD.
Nice.
Had some very, very good conversations with him about 70-odd games, all that sort of stuff. I imagine some of that stuff's going to come up this week because I like a dissenting opinion. I don't like to live in an echo chamber, and I like to have a bit of a back and forth. So we've got someone who is also a Sony fan. So we're going to go a bit back and forth this week. And I'll link in the chat, guys. Jump in, check it out. And I just dropped a video just before the show. I got a little bit emotional. So I apologize. There's a couple of words in there that are explicit. But I feel I made some good points. So I'll link in the chat, and please come and join us. We have an absolutely amazing show, and we have a barrel of laughs. And thank you, Boom, for having me on. It was an absolute pleasure. I love coming on and talking about games with you guys. You guys are amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we love having you, brother. I know that the time zones it's a little difficult, and obviously it's super late where you are, but we're happy to have you here. We're happy to have your opinion. Definitely go check out that video. As a matter of fact, I'm going to actually add that video to the show notes so people can go check that out, as well as links to your podcast and your YouTube channel, as well as your social media information. OBM, you obviously not only represent yourself very well, but you also are a representative of the Xbox era. Good friends of this podcast, great friends of this community, xboxera.com. Those guys are amazing. Nick and why I forget his name? Oh my God. John and Nick are just absolutely incredible. As a matter of fact, somebody from Xbox Era is going to be coming on my show next week that reached out to me. That's always on the show. Wow, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm blanking on his name. Let me look.
Jesse, yeah.
That's right. Jesse had reached out to me yesterday, and he was like, "Hey, Boom, I'm trying to expand." I'm like, "Well, come on down there, brother. Let's go." So we're gonna have him on, and we're gonna get him introduced to the community because obviously he's usually in the background. And you know what's crazy? Every time he speaks, I swear, OBM, it's you. Like, you guys have the same voice. It's crazy.
Oh, no. I'm just kidding.
So obviously, talk about we had you at Halo, which of course is the Halo podcast. Unfortunately, we got nothing short of disastrous news by 343. I'm sorry to say, look, I'm not a guy that loves to see anyone lose their job. I would be devastated if someone did. I really would. But holy cow, folks. Like, I mean,
so we're gonna talk about that tonight, actually, Boom. So because we do have right now, it's a bi-weekly Halo show. Actually, sometimes you just go when there's news, but called "You Had Me at Halo." It's going to be at 7:15, and we do got a little bit of insight, more than just kind of the surface level opinion. I've talked to developers that have actually been at 343 for a while, and I don't like kind of come out here and say stuff because I always take everything as like one little perspective, but there is a lot of changes that have been happening, actually. And I don't think the community really realizes it, but there's been things happening over there. There has been a lot of both philosophy and personnel changes that are continuing. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, obviously some of the feelings, which I'm sure are not going to be that positive about this roadmap, but also, some of the things that could be coming down the road with the changes that could be hopeful down the road. But do you have a
line to Bonnie Ross? Because if you have a line to Bonnie Ross, there's some things that I'd like to pass on.
We'll talk tonight about everything. But yeah, man. Like, so if anybody wants to talk about that, come show up at 7:15. You Had Me at Halo. It's under the Xbox Era, like that whole suite. And also, I'll be back to making some content again on Xbox Era here very shortly. Been trying to finish up a project behind the scenes, so I've been kind of short there, but start looking out for me on Twitter. Otherwise, and I'll let you know when I do have some content there. But as always, appreciate you inviting me, Boom. It turned out to be, you know what it is, Boom? Every time you invite me, we have the show planned, and then some breaking news happens. This has been the pattern. So you're welcome. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But
I love it. I love it. Listen, Fuzzy, before I get to you, brother, I got to thank Death Ray Tower for the $2 super chat. He says, "Hey, folks, GG's and long live cross play. #fun. Sir X-Man drops a $2 super chat and says, still haven't seen Final Fantasy VII on Xbox. Correct there. Lucky Mo drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, Sony pays for day one third-party exclusives and keeps it away from consumers. Xbox pays for day one third-party on Game Pass so that more consumers can play. Yeah, I mean, a great point there, brother. And thank you so much for the generosity. Games for Fun drops an outstanding $5 super chat, and he says this: if the UK blocked my deal, I would be petty AF. And he says this would be a statement from Microsoft. We have determined it's no longer profitable to sell Windows OS in the UK for government use, LOL. And Gamer by Choice drops a $5 super chat and says, I wonder if Sony is cashing in on their goodwill because they intend to be published only next gen, to only be a publisher next gen. I mean, that's he's referring to what King says, that there will not be a PlayStation 6. There will only be PlayStation publisher like Sega. I don't know if that's going to happen, but man, if they keep doing the Jim Ryan dance that they're doing now, they're gonna shuffle themselves right out of the market. But Fuzzy, sell your brand, brother. Tell everyone where they can check you out on other shows, check out your outstanding YouTube channel, and reach out to you on social media.
Just want to thank you for having me on here, and man, so much news going on in the gaming space. It's awesome to be here with you guys. Just want to say, for anybody that wants to hear my endless ramblings on anything gaming, just follow me on Twitter, Fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also find my channel on YouTube, Fuzzy_Belvedere. And look forward to tomorrow with Breakfast with Boom at 10 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. Can't wait. So stay tuned.
Yeah, brother. Well, thank you so much for that. And ladies and gentlemen, a big shout out once again for all the super chats. Again, almost 700 people in here. Super successful day. We will be back at this tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, on the new episode of Breakfast with Boom. We're going to have Dreadpool. We're going to have Fuzzy returning, into the chair, as well as Web Dave. I'm going to try and get a few others because I think this is a worthy conversation to have of people who may not be on other podcasts. So I'm going to see if I can reach out to a few people. Enjoy the rest of your day. And of course, I'm going to close out the show, folks, with something that is important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. That's something that my dad taught me when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of X Vlog Live.